Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching the 10-episode Netflix anime series known as Kotaro Lives Alone. Now, when it comes to Kotaro Lives Alone, this was a manga series that actually became a live-action series before getting an anime adaptation, in a manner similar to another Netflix series that I've covered beforehand, known as The Way of the House Husband. Thankfully, unlike The Way of the House Husband, the animation here is, well, actually animated, as opposed to just being a motion comic. But how's the story? Let's get to it, shall we? The story focuses on Kotaro Sato, a very mature 4-year-old boy who decides he's going to live in an apartment building all by himself. He happens to befriend a man named Karano, who's a struggling manga artist, who naturally finds himself a bit curious with why a 4-year-old is living in an apartment without his parents. So, throughout the 10 episodes, we basically see the daily adventures of this very strange little boy as he meets the other residents of the apartment that he's in, gains friends, as we find out bits and bits of his past, and we basically just see Kotaro live through his life as we see how he ended up as the boy he is today. So yeah, as far as these kinds of shows go, it basically feels like a slow-paced Usagi drop type, only without the controversial ending. In the sense that it follows a very precocious young child and the adult who happens to sometimes take care of them, but for the most part just sort of he just sort of watches over him. And as far as those kinds of shows go, I thought it was actually pretty good. Lead-in films gives animation that's not the best, but ultimately it doesn't need to be. It works well enough for the slice of life comedy on display here. And I wouldn't say the jokes are necessarily the funniest I've heard, but they're more just wholesome. A lot of the series really is just Kotaro gaining friends, learning new things about the world, and also helping others around the way. Kotaro is extremely likable, especially because he happens to basically act like a feudal lord from a cartoon series that he happens to enjoy. It's rather endearing considering I think a lot of kids can relate with copying certain characters they watch on TV. Also, Karano, as far as the other protagonist goes, I thought he was pretty effective too. He's not very charismatic, but he's not really supposed to be. He's just sort of a down on his luck manga artist, and you can see how his time with Kotaro not only benefits his career, but it also gets him to somewhat turn his life around. Not exactly right away, but you can tell he's having a good influence. And as far as the other characters go, I thought they were pretty good too. There's this one tenant who's like a Yakuza guy who's very affectionate with Kotaro. There's this lady named Mizuki who's a hostess who has people who talk down on her for that, but Kotaro sees her as the nice woman she always is. And there's ones like this lady named Kobayashi who uh, who works for the people who are giving Kotaro money, and she's a lot of fun, especially when she has a few beers in her. They're characters who all mean well when it comes down to Kotaro, and I can see why this worked well as a live action comedy as well as an animated one. Especially since the animation, from what I can tell, happens to stick close to the manga's designs quite effectively. And considering it's only 10 episodes long, you can kind of watch the whole thing in an afternoon and you'll be satisfied. Though I will say that there isn't much of a real ending for the series, which makes sense as the manga I believe is still going on. So unless they plan on making another season, you won't get much of a narrative satisfaction in that sense. But if you just want a comfy little slice of life about a young boy and the people that he happens to meet along the way, while also having some quirky and heartwarming moments, this is definitely it. It has a bit of a slow beginning, but it really grows on you throughout the whole run. That's why I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. See you next time.